what we're going to focus on today is how to create a year-end, a historical year-end company within Sage 100. The reason why you need to do that, especially any of you that are new to Sage 100 or Sage 100C, so that you can understand how Sage processes in the back end and why we have to do the things that we do related to payroll. So the first thing that I want to talk about is as far as year-end is concerned, in order to be able to install the tax table updates that will come out at the end of the year, or to install the IRD, which is the interim release download, you have to be on a supported version of Sage. So currently, the supported versions of Sage are the 2015 version, which is 5.2, the 2016 version, which is 5.3, the 2017 version, which is 5.4, or the 2018 version, which is 6.0. When we go into Sage, I'll actually show you how you can check on your own system to determine exactly what version you're running. So if you find that you are on an older unsupported version, and we are not aware of any major changes that are going to take effect for the W-2s this year that will be affecting our client base. So I think you'll be okay to process your W-2s, but you definitely want to get in touch with me so that we can start planning an upgrade for you next year. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to talk about is why do we recommend creating a historical company at the end of the year? So as you know, with how Sage works, is that you have to close a quarter before you can begin processing the next quarter. And when you close that quarter, it basically purges out that information, and your quarter to date totals roll back to zero. The chances of you being ready to print your W-2s before your first payroll of 2018 are probably slim. You know, some folks that I'm talking to, their last payroll is on the 29th, and their first payroll is like on the 3rd or 4th. So, and with the holidays built in there just really isn't enough time to get everything processed. So what we suggest, and we actually suggest this even if you do have time to print your W-2s, is that you create, after your last payroll of 2017, you create a historical company and copy over your payroll data. And that way, if you don't have time to process your W-2s, you'll process them from the historical company. And if you do have the opportunity to print your W-2s and an employee loses one, or you have to go back and make any changes, you have that historical company that you can go in and use. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to switch over to Sage, and we're going to talk about what we need to do to actually create that historical company. Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you is when you open your Sage or Sage 100, now today I probably will say Sage 100, but please note that anything where Sage 100 is mentioned, Sage 100C is also implied. The processes that we're going to take a look at today are applicable for any end user, whether on 100 or 100C, if you're running version 2017 or lower. So you're going to go up, and I'm going to click on the Help button at the top, and then I'm going to go to About Sage 100, and it's going to show me what version I'm running. So this is going to let you know whether or not you are on a current and supported version of Sage 100. So I wanted to point that out as we get started. All right, so we're going to go into Payroll, And one of the things that you want to make sure before you're ready to create that historical company is that you have processed your last payroll of 2017. You have, updated and taken care of everything, but you just have not closed the fourth quarter of the year. If there are going to be transactions that take place after the fact, maybe where you're having to record third-party sick pay or some other things such as that, you can make those entries in your historical company if you need to. So again, if you need assistance with that, just reach out to our support team and we'll gladly walk you through any of those processes. So to create that historical company, what we're going to do is we're going to go into our library master module, we're going to go into main, and we're going to go into company maintenance. And we're going to create the new company code. So what a lot of individuals do is that they will either start with a company code called Y, maybe for year, and then they'll use 17. Last week I did that in the demonstration, so actually I have a company already in here. Actually I used A17, and there probably is also, there's Y16 for year 16. So you can use, if you have multiple companies that you process payroll in, what I might suggest is use the first letter of the company code and then use the year behind it. What we're going to do today is I'm just going to call it Y17 for year 17. So I'm going to put in my company code, and I'm going to, for the purposes today, just put in historical company for 2017. However, if you are printing your W-2s from this company, you need to put in your proper company name because this is actually what's going to print on the W-2. You're going to want to put in your address. And I'm going to abbreviate everything just for purposes today. You will want to put in your federal ID number, and you'll also want to put in your state ID number because those will also pick up and print on your W-2 form. So at this point, after I have completed all of the information, I don't have to put in my website, my web address. I don't have to put in my email address. You can put in a trade name if you choose to, as well as your phone number. I'm going to go ahead and click Activate, and it's going to pop up with a message and say, I have to save this before I can activate it. Do I want to save it now? And I'm going to say yes. Then it's going to come up and it's going to ask me, what modules do you want to activate? Sage 100 requires when you are copying from one company to another, it requires that you must include common information, you must include general ledger information, and then it's up to you what other modules you want to include. If you're only concerned about copying over payroll information, then you can just click the payroll module. But if there's other modules that you want to copy, let's say at the end of the year you just want to copy everything over, or maybe you want to also copy AP for your 1099s. Again, just make that choice. For our purposes today, we're just going to do payroll, and I'm going to click the proceed button. And basically what this is going to do is it is going to create empty shells. It's going to create those modules in the company code Y17 for me to copy over my data. So at this point, what I want to do while I'm still in the Y17 company, I'm going to go and click copy. You're going to get kind of a warning message, and then it's going to come up with a screen for your copy data. This is where you want to be extremely careful. So the source company is where I'm copying from, and I'm going to copy from my ABC company, and I'm copying to my Y17. You always want to make sure that you double check the source company and the destination. To make sure that you don't accidentally copy from a blank company over your live company. So you definitely want to make sure that you don't do that. So it's going to pop up and it's going to say copy the data for all the modules that I have within my Sage 100. Well, I only activated the common information, the general ledger, and payroll, so I don't need to copy everything. So I can individually uncheck these boxes by clicking on them, or I can click the icon where it says unselect all, and it actually will uncheck everything, and then I'll go back and check my general ledger and select my payroll. So once I've made my selection, I'm going to go back and I'm going to double or triple check to make sure that I have the source company correct. So the source company is where you're copying from, and the destination is where you're copying to. So when I'm comfortable with my selection, I'm going to go ahead and click Proceed. It's going to say, are you sure you want to copy all of these data files? I'm going to say yes, and then it's going to go through the process. Now, I have very little data in my demo company, so it went pretty quickly. If you have hundreds or a couple of thousand employees and a lot of payroll data, it will take a little bit longer to do that copy. And also keep in mind that you're copying the general ledger, so you may have, 10 years worth of history in your general ledger, so it may take a little bit longer to copy than you're seeing here. For whatever reason, if you think it's taking too long to copy, I would suggest not just stopping the copying or rebooting your computer. Give it a little bit of time to see if it's going to finish. If something happens and it gets locked up, then what I would suggest is that you give us a call just so that we can kind of help you through the process. But I would create a brand new historical company and try the copy again, and let us help remove the company that did not copy successful. So that would be my recommendation. So what you can see now is I have activated these modules. I have copied over my data. So I'm going to just accept out of here. Now I'm going to change companies, and I'm going to go into the company that I just created, and I'm going to do this as soon as I make the copy before I go and close the fourth quarter of my live company. I'm going to go into the payroll module. I'm going to look at employee maintenance, and I'm going to randomly start selecting some of my employees and taking a look at the checks tab and making sure that I have the entire year listed there. Again, I just have very limited data in the demo today. I will use my arrow and scroll through and look at other employees and just make sure that the information looks correct. Also to make sure that there are no error messages that pop up. The other thing that I will do is I will run some quarterly reports. I might run my quarterly tax report, my quarterly pay recap report, maybe a check history report in my Y17 company. Then I will go back into my live ABC company and preview those reports as well and make sure the numbers match. We just want to make sure that everything copies over properly before we close the ABC company. So I've had, unfortunately, over the years, a couple of clients that assumed the data copied. They closed their live company, and then when they went to process their W-2s, it had not copied properly, and they did not have any payroll data in their historical company. So that was a very painful process for them to try to recreate that information in order to get their W-2s processed. So I'm going to open it up for a couple of minutes and see if anyone has any questions about the historical company. Again, we're creating that historical company so that we have the ability to close 2017 in payroll, process our first payroll in 2018 when we have not had the opportunity or the time to process our W-2s. When it comes time to process the W-2s, then you will go into that Y-17 or whatever you call that historical company, and you will process your W-2s from there. So I'm not saying that we have any questions. Again, you don't have to wait until I open it up. If you think of something, go ahead and submit your question, and I'll be glad to address those. So that basically talks about why we create the historical company and why we don't close the year until we have that. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint presentation and going to cover a little more information with you to talk a little bit further about some of the things that we do in for year end. So we've already really talked about this, why you have to copy the general ledger and the common data. You obviously can copy everything if you want to. Now, one of the things that we're not actually going to demo today, but when you process your W-2s, you're actually going to process them using Aatrix, which is a third-party product that is built into your Sage software. We'll go back to Sage. And it's going to be listed under period end where you have your federal e-filing, reporting, and state e-filing. When you click on these, it's going to automatically take you out to Aatrix. And if it's your first year in using Aatrix, you definitely should get in touch with us for assistance so that we can walk you through the process. But basically, Aatrix was added to Sage a few versions ago, and it is a third-party product that is within your system. There is no fee to use it in order to print your W-2 forms. The only thing that is basically required is that you do have to have an internet connection from the workstation and or from your server where you're going to be processing and printing your W-2s. And it also does require that you be current with your Sage maintenance and or subscription plan. So if you have let your payroll subscription or Sage maintenance lapse, then you will not have the ability to use Aatrix to process your W-2s. Again, there is no fee to creating the spreadsheet within Aatrix and printing your W-2s. If you are required to e-file, either state or federal, you do that e-filing through Aatrix as well, and there is a fee to e-file. I'm going to make sure that you all have my email address, and if you would like the link to get the pricing for Aatrix for e-filing, I will be glad to send that to you. The other thing that you can do with Aatrix for a fee is actually have them do everything. They will, you ready and provide the W-2 information to Aatrix. They then generate the W-2s and actually mail them out to your employees and take care of basically everything. It is a per employee fee, and more of our clients are actually choosing to do this because By the time you buy the W-2 forms, your envelopes, your postage, and the labor involved in doing that, especially if you have several employees, it is more cost effective to actually have Aatrix do everything. And everyone that we have spoken with has been very pleased with their service and said it was well worth letting them deal with getting those W-2s and or 1099s out rather than doing it themselves. So that is an option that you have. If you have lots of employees, let's say 1,000 or 2,000 employees, you can also purchase a bundle price from Aatrix. So instead of paying per employee, you're just paying a lump sum, and that's even more economical. So I'm going to open up and see if anyone has any questions about Aatrix. I've talked to you and mentioned several times about, if you need assistance, to give us a call. One thing that I do want to mention is that each of our clients should have received 2, possibly 3 emails over the past 4 to 6 weeks that provided information about year-end and how to request assistance for year-end support. For clients that we assist, either with helping them with printing their W-2s, their 1099s, some clients want us to connect to them and create those historical companies for them. All of that is done on a by appointment basis. So we gather information from you, and based upon that, we will schedule appointments for as much or as little assistance as you require. If you have not yet requested assistance and you are going to need assistance, I'm going to ask that you do that right away. Our schedule is filling very, very quickly, and we want to make sure that we get you taken care of within your time frame so that you can get the W-2s processed on your time frame. If you did not receive the email, then what I would like to suggest that you do is send an email. I'm going to put it on the screen here. So send me an email to pam@oasisky.com and ask for the year-end information, and I will forward you an email with the questions. Or I may possibly even just give you a call and we'll run through those questions and answer them on the phone so that we can get your appointment scheduled. So if you have questions about what type of forms are required for Aatrix, if it's your first year, because with Aatrix you do not use pre-printed W-2s, you use the blank perforated forms, I will be more than glad to send you documentation on what type of forms you need. I'll be glad to send you pricing on Aatrix for e-filing and or having them process anything, as well as sending you information on getting an appointment scheduled for you for year end. The other thing that I would like to suggest to you is we will also help you prep and get things ready for your ACA filing if you're required to do ACA reporting. And we have 5 recorded webinars on our website that go through, they're short, that's why we segmented them, that goes through ACA reporting. These webinars were created in 2015, but the information is still applicable today. So whether it's your first year in processing ACA or you do it once a year and you just need a refresher, I would suggest that you go to our website, which is oasisky.com, click on the Learn section, and then it will take you to our pre-recorded webinars, and you will find all 5 of the ACA webinars listed there. So again, I'm going to open up to see if anyone has any questions. I know we kind of went through this pretty quickly, but it doesn't take as long to go through the information for creating the historical company. We will be having another webinar today at 2 p.m. that will be talking about 1099 processing, and we will be going through vendor maintenance and showing how to correct history, how to determine if your information, run reports and if it's correct, and also be talking about Aatrix and printing your W-2s through Aatrix. So feel free to join us for that as well. So again, I'm going to open this up to see if anyone has any additional questions. And if not, if you think of them later, please make a note of my email address. Send me an email, and we'll be glad to address those. So if there are no further questions, we'll go ahead and end the session. And I'd like to thank you for joining us today. This is the last in the series of the payroll year-end webinars for 2017. However, we will be setting up the recording on our website of this presentation if you have other employees that you would like to have them watch. So thank you very much. I'm still not seeing any questions. So thank you, and just let us know how we can assist. Bye-bye.